Murder hornets.
Murder hornets. Who would have
Crazy. Yeah.
ever thought that hornets could murder?
Oh, I believe it. I don't trust I don't trust any hornets or any bees. They're all murder hornets to me. I don't trust them.
I always thought that beauty was in the eye of the beholder, but turns out not necessarily.
Oh, absolutely not. I don't trust a bee. I do not
Yeah.
trust a bee. I love everybody. Hate bees and I hate hornets.
I am so afraid of a bee sting. You have no idea what I will do. I'll jump in a dumpster during COVID to avoid a bee bite, bee sting.
Man, I got stung. I got stung in my ear by a bee when I was a kid, and it was probably one of the worst things that ever happened to me in my entire life. It
What
was horrible.
happened?
Yeah, this bee, a bee, like ended up. I was in the park. I was in the park playing with my brother and my buddies, and I got a bee inside of my ear.
Good God.
Yeah, he was obviously racist. Uh, but yeah, it was bad. It was pretty bad. Yeah, life is super crazy right now. I was just out protesting with my wife a couple days ago here in Staten Island, and it was so interesting to stand there and see these people doing just doing this work, and it was all young people. It's all young people. So proud of them. So proud of them. Like just like because you don't expect good from young people. You know, I'm 42 years old. I don't trust 20-year-olds. Uh, so all these all these young leaders, in the community,
Oops. Just a sec.
stand. You
Okay.
all right?
I have to turn off the AC.
No, I just had to do the same thing.
Okay. So you went out and saw the protest. You're proud of the young people. And then what
Oh,
did
it was
I miss?
awesome. It was awesome. They were amazing. Like I was blown away by what I saw. Very multicultural crowd. It was like it was white people, black people, and Asian people, and uh, Hispanic people. But they all were young. They were young. They were babies, and they went up on the steps of the precinct and gave speeches and recited poetry and said some pretty brilliant things. I was like, wow, like if this is the face of the future, we are in a good place. Like there's some bad things happening right now, but love drives darkness out. And there was a lot of love there that day.
That's so good to hear.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, we did. Okay, let me be real.
Yeah.
I'm white. Well, I'm
Are you?
technically. I'm so glad you don't see my color, but I'm really technically a Semite. I'm Jewish, right?
Okay.
But I can pass. I don't have to acknowledge that I'm Jewish. I can get by. I can be accepted if I don't tell people that I'm Jewish, because there's people that still dislike Jewish people,
Yeah.
you know. And my parents went through the Holocaust. My dad's whole
Wow.
family. I have a picture of my dad's whole family, like more people than this, and they all died in the concentration camps except my dad.
Holy smokes.
And so, like, we were raised, we are not better than anybody, and this could happen again.
Yeah.
And we had better stop this because it isn't far from it. We've rounded up Mexicans, for God's sake.
Yeah.
What the hell are we doing?
Well, I think that and a lot of people are scared right now, and every time every time I go online, I see all the videos of all the protests going on everywhere, like all over the world. Like they're protesting in Spain, protesting in the UK, everywhere. And I think this is probably I haven't seen something on this scale like ever. I don't think any of us have. And
Who
I mean,
who the
it's
heck?
just showing that it's right now, like, there needs to be a conversation had, one that should have been had, or been in progress from a long time ago, that hasn't happened. People are upset. People, just like this kind of stuff has been going on way too long. So, right now, the soup is boiling over the side of the pot.
Mhm. It's hard to have hope right now for a lot of people
Yeah,
because
yeah.
it's just been going on too goddamn long.
Well, you have a lot of people out there that don't really, they don't think that there's a problem.
Mhm.
They don't think that there's a problem. There's that, and that's the biggest problem. That's the biggest part of the problem, is that you have people who who have been suffering injustice for a long time, and watching their ancestors go through it, and watching their ancestors go through it, and watching their ancestors go through it. And then you have the people who have been watching the entire time and not saying anything about it, and watching their ancestors do the same, and watching their ancestors actually partake in that same system. Them watching their ancestors build that system. So there's a big divide between the people. And but now, like, ears are open. Ears are open. Like, I can't turn on the TV or go online without seeing everybody having an opinion on it. Like, you can't. It's pretty hard to ignore it now.
I was in the army in the 70s and I went through Paris, France, and um, it dawned on me back then that Black people in France
Yeah,
had a better opportunity being Black in France than Black in America, because there was no ceiling to how far Black people could go in France in the 70s.
yeah,
And like, I am so sorry for how we've treated your people. I can't tell you how sorry that makes me. Like, my dad would fight with City Hall in Portland, Oregon. The minute he got here from Germany, he noticed how the Black people were treated and how the ladies of the night were treated. Anybody that was treated less, or he was down at City Hall, he would go in front of the judges, he would go to the city club. He just fought his whole life for the rights of people to be treated not lesser than anybody else. And I think everybody needs to watch everything that's going on with the Black people, because it isn't fair. Okay, we say it's fair. It needs to be equal. Equal everywhere you go. You need to be equal to us. When you go to a bank, you need to be perceived as a customer, not a potential robber.
yeah,
You know, you need to be given the opportunity to be handed a home mortgage loan at a mortgage company, not told that they're full for this or some bullshit. You need to be if I was Black in America, oh my gosh, I could not handle it for one day ever.
well, I think a lot of people think that they think that the stories, aren't true, because they don't really have a direct relationship to it. Like, I grew up in Brooklyn, in East Flatbush, in the 80s, in the 90s. Uh, when you saw the cops coming, like, you weren't relieved.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, the cops, the cops had a very different kind of relationship with my community. I grew up during the stop and frisk time, where, like, and that's sort of like that was the relationship that we had with the cops. Like, knew that if I was walking down the street and it was late at night and I saw a police officer, he wasn't going to say, "Hey, you know what? You lost, little boy." He's going to put me up against a fence and pat my pockets. So when you have a community of people and this is their relationship to the cops, it's like enough is enough. And like a lot of people don't really get that because they haven't experienced that. Like I keep seeing I keep seeing everyone saying, "Oh, not all cops are bad." Cops aren't supposed to be bad. No cops are supposed to be bad. So it's a discussion that needs to and it's definitely starting now. It's definitely starting now. Like just watching all the protesting and watching how it just sort of like bubbled everything up to the surface, and it's kind of unavoidable now to like we can't not have the conversation.
Yes. So my daughter, she went to a 98% Black high school in Renton, Washington, Andre.
Yeah.
And, like, even though I was exposed to my father fighting for the rights and telling me I wasn't better than anybody, and he meant it, I still wasn't woke to what the white privilege was, the Black plight in America, really not woke.
Yeah.
Until my daughter went to this high school in 91. And it was on the bottom rung of all of the schools in the district because it was 98% Black students.
Wow.
They were treated so badly, so badly. It was so bad that a Black choir teacher was treating the students badly who were Black. Because she could get away with it. That's how bad it was. I remember my daughter coming home crying and telling me that this Black choir teacher was being so mean to the students. So I went there the next day and stood out in the hallway, and she kept the door open so I could hear what she was saying to a couple hundred students. And she was getting down and using bad words and just berating the kids. And I marched right in there and sent her to the principal. But how many white teachers were doing the same damn thing?
Yeah.
So even though I had a legal obligation and a moral obligation to stop what she was doing, why wasn't I up in the faces and the grills of the white teachers and what they were doing? You know what I mean? Like, I feel bad about that. I didn't hear what the white teachers were doing.
Well, I feel like that's something that's sort of that's starting to change a lot now. I could imagine back then, like where and it was more volatile. Like people were definitely like trying to like maintain like a certain decorum, keep a certain kind of relationship with the coworkers and in their social circles. So you had a lot of people not saying, "Hey, listen, you know what? That's wrong."
Yeah. I feel proud that my daughter didn't know the N word until high school, but I'm so sad that she learned it by reading a library book. So she didn't know how to relate to Black people. She'd never seen them, but she never heard the N word.
Yeah.
So she went to the library to look up the history of Black people in America, and they used the N word incorrectly in the library book at Renton High School in 1991 in America.
Well,
so things got to change.
They do. They definitely, and they are changing. I hope so. I was having a conversation with my buddy Brian. We actually we're working on a podcast right now together, and we were talking about one of the problems being that no one ever talks about how the future can be, what the future looks like better. So we all sort of like spin our wheels, and everyone wants to talk about the problem over and 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 over. And no one's talking about how things can be and what we need to do to get past the problem, and what the future looks like.
I feel like I ask people of color, what can I do? What can one person do? And I hear, listen, don't judge, don't talk, just listen. Don't come up with responses when we talk to you. Just listen and understand.
Oh
But
yeah, that's a big one.
is it?
That's a big one. Is
It
I
feels like so little. It feels like it's a Band-Aid. It feels like, how are we going to make it better? I want to make it better now.
Yeah, but I feel like also like just like simply just listening. It's human nature to not listen. Everyone wants to act like they know things. It's all ego driven, and I think that people need to start closing their mouth and listening. No one's been listening for years, for decades. No one's listened.
Did you hear Whoopi Goldberg the other day, what she said about her dad and her grandfather?
No. Was this
I,
on her show?
I don't know. I saw it, like she posted it. So I shared it on my page. You can see it somewhere yesterday on my page, but it's a video of her talking about her dad and her grandfather fought in the military. They were, soldiers. If they were
Yeah.
in our military, and they fought for this country, but their whole lives they were never allowed to vote.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've heard of this?
Oh yeah. I've
Breaks my
spent
heart.
well, you know what? It's those stories people have to hear those stories. A lot of people simply just don't know because they don't listen. And how are you going to, like, if I'm going to have a relationship with you, then I need to know who you are. I need to know where you've been. I need to know um what your grievances are. And I need to listen to you. I need to open my heart to you. If we're gonna have a good relationship, and that's what we're looking to do, right? Like, we're looking for everybody to be able to exist together, one nation, right? um People need to listen. Like, I had this conversation. So I have this conversation with my wife all the time. My wife's white. My wife's from Maine. I don't know why being from Maine had anything to do with her being white.
That's really
Uh,
white.
yeah, that's really white. Maine is really, really, like, Maine is like Africa for white people. Like, um, and we talk about it all the time. And she's, when I was out there protesting. She was out there right with me, and we sit down and talk. We have that conversation with each other all the time about listening to people, listening to the experiences, listening to, because my experience is so different from hers. My experience is so different from the experience of people who didn't grow up, you know, a black man in a black community in America. So that's the only way I think we're ever going to really get past it, is if we start like having these open conversations, and they got to stay open so that people can learn. It's a lot to be learned right now. There's so much to be learned.
I remember my very first babysitter was named Queenie, and she was in Portland, Oregon, and she was a lady of color. And I'm trying to be politically correct. We whitewash everything in America. She was a black lady.
All
Right.
right, there we go. I was about to ask you, like, what color was she? Just a black lady. All right.
People of color we don't see. And so that's more like it, right?
Yes.
Thank
There
you.
we go. Now we talking.
Now we're talking. And so my mother let us go to this babysitter, and all of a sudden we didn't go to this babysitter no more. And I was like, what the hell happened with Queenie? You know, I missed her. I was a kid. I didn't know a thing. And my mother said that she would line us up and make us say the Pledge of Allegiance. And so we didn't go back to her. And still to this day, I was a kid. I was 6, 7, 8. I would have remembered that. And I believe it was an excuse. Later on, and if my sister's watching, she will not appreciate this, but later on, my mom owned a tavern in Portland, Oregon, the Skyline. And never would she ever let anyone of color come in there. Never. And my mom went through the Holocaust.
Yeah.
And, you know, I gave my mother, I hated that aspect of my mother, and I gave it to her all the time. Like, what makes you think you're any better than anybody else? You know, you couldn't step to my mom. You know, it was her way or the highway, but she knew where I stood, and that's as far as I could take it.
Well, you know, everybody comes from such different places. And then also it was the time. It was the time that this stuff was like, when was this that this they owned this tavern?
In the 70s all the way through 2002.
Shit.
Yep. Yep. So you're looking at your phone. Do you want to cut this off, or can we talk a little bit about
Yeah, we could talk. We could talk. I'm looking at all types of stuff. I got a snack somewhere around here. Can't find it.
You're not referring to your wife as your snack.
No, no. Hey, you know what? Sometimes. Not right now, though. Not right now, but I got like an actual real snack. She made some cookies.
What kind of cookies?
Chocolate chip cookies.
Yeah, now we're talking.
Yeah, that's my stuff. I'm trying to I'm trying to cut back on the snacks and stuff right now, because I've been spending a lot of time home, working from home, napping at home. I'm pretty sure I've put on, I don't know, they call it quarantine 15. I'm pretty sure I've beat that already.
Go up to 19.
I can't afford to do it. You know, it's funny. I was outside, but I was out there with the protesters the other day, and my eyes were so open, and I'm looking around at all these young, strong people, right? And cops, and there were helicopters up overhead, and there were cops on top of the precinct, you know, ready for anything to happen. And all I could think about was how not ready I was for anything to happen. You know, like I got on a knee brace, I got on a shoulder brace. I'm just trying to stay alive right now. Yeah, you know, it's been hard trying to get ready to like go back into the real world looking like a human being. Right
So
now.
in your family out there in New York, have you had family members affected by the virus?
Yeah, my brother contracted it. You know, he's law enforcement. He was home. He didn't end up on a ventilator or anything, but he got over it. Took him a couple weeks. He said it was rough. Had a few other buddies that were hospitalized with it.
Did you lose any friends or family?
I lost acquaintances. I know like a couple of handfuls of people that died. And you know, it's hard because you have, you know, now you got all these protests going on, and you know, we're still in the middle of a pandemic.
Exactly.
We're still in the middle of the pandemic. Still in the middle of a pandemic. You got thousands of people congregating out there protesting. That's scary.
It is.
It's
You just
really,
think,
really scary.
you know, isn't it wonderful that they're literally risking their lives to protest?
Yeah, Yeah, well, you know what? Because it's such a I mean, it's such a big, it's such a big freaking battle to fight. Like it like there's no, I don't, like, I feel like when you look at people who protested, you look at all the protests of the past, like, people had dogs sicked on them, they sprayed with fire hoses and tear gas. Like, it's it's definitely worth the fight. When I look at them, I'm like, wow, they're so brave. They're so brave out there, uh, doing that. And it's a fight that's gonna, it's not going to end for quite some time.
Did
It's
you
gonna be.
do you know who Dante the comic is out in LA in Hollywood?
Yeah, yeah.
Did you see his video where they pulled over four black people in a car? One of them was like an 80-year-old man.
No, no. Dante, he's the dude, white guy. He's from Vegas.
He
Vegas.
comes to Vegas a lot. He has a house here and he lives in Hollywood.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I
I,
didn't. Yeah, I didn't see the video. I'm gonna check that out. It's on his Facebook page.
yes, it is. And he was out there screaming the laws to the police and trying to make them abide by the laws of our country. I
Well,
feel
that's what we want. That's what we want. I had a conversation yesterday about, and I think that a big part of it, like, racism is a big problem, in policing. We have a horrible police culture. It's
yeah,
horrible.
horrible.
Like, and they not just, and then, I mean, they're killing people of color. They're killing people who aren't of color too.
Yes.
And that's something that shouldn't be happening. Like, cops, like, people shouldn't be afraid of the people who are out there to protect them.
The thing that bothers me, Andre, about how we've treated Black people in America is that how in the hell do we make up for all that we have done to you? How? It's been
Uh,
so horrific for so long, and it hasn't. I'm 69 years old. You might have, when I turn on the TV, it looks like 1968. It's
yeah,
not, except for there's more people out there noticing it and trying to stop it. But the same behaviors are going on. So if we fix it, what about all the bitterness that might be inside the hearts of the people who have been so downtrodden for so many centuries?
I think that that's the hardest part of the equation. Hurt and pain. Like, that's because then it goes past laws, it goes past policies and stuff. Like, you start talking about, like, the hurt of the people. I was watching your interview with Sinbad, when he was talking about, he was like, yeah, he's like, generations, like, the generations that still harbor hurt have to die off.
Yeah, wasn't
um
that interesting?
Sinbad is one of my favorite. He's one of my favorite comics. I would say, you know what? I would say Sinbad is my favorite.
Him and Chappelle. Chappelle is more from the brain,
Well,
and
you know what?
Sinbad's more
Chappelle,
from the heart.
Chappelle is awesome, but the first special that I watched that made me even remotely interested in doing comedy was uh, Sinbad's. Sinbad had a special called Afros and Bell Bottoms, something like that. I watched it with my mom, like, and we had it on VHS, and I must have watched that tape, like, I don't know, 300, 400 times. Like, me and my brother would sit down and watch it, and you could sit down and watch it with your parents. Like I sat down and watched with my mom, my grandmother, like the whole family could sit down and watch him. Like he was funny, um, and he wasn't lewd, but like I mean, just amazing, amazing dude to watch. I had I have a Sinbad story.
No way.
Yeah, not
Okay,
as good.
you tell yours, and then I'll tell you how I got that interview, my Sinbad story.
Well, I mean, it's not even a great Sinbad. I don't even know if I could call it a story. I was in Vegas. I was in Vegas doing some just bouncing around, doing some comedy. Like this is had to be like 10 years ago. And I was I was dating this girl at the time, and she was there with me, and she was like, oh, I know Sinbad. Sinbad came in the conversation. She's like, oh, I know Sinbad. I met Sinbad. He's awesome. He's amazing. Friends with Sinbad. Um, and I was like, oh, okay, cool. But she was also like one of those people that she felt like because she was following somebody on Twitter, like they were her friend. And yeah, I'm like, you don't know Sinbad. I was like, then that means that I'm friends with Sinbad too. And I was uh I was doing a show at the Clarion, the
Wow.
Clarion Hotel. That's still there? Clarion
I
Casino?
don't, yes, it is. It's right by me. Isn't it
Yeah.
on Vegas Boulevard?
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not even a block from me.
Yeah. I was doing a show with the Clarion, and she was like, well, I'm gonna tweet Sinbad. I'm gonna get Sinbad to come to your show. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever. And she tweeted Sinbad, and you know, I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm like I'm waiting to go up, and she comes and she runs up to me and she's like, he's not gonna make it. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, like, oh yeah. So she looks at me and she says, but he retweeted it, and he retweeted my show, and I just thought that was awesome. That was awesome of him. But yeah, that's the closest I've been to Sinbad.
Okay,
I
so
love that guy.
let me tell you how I got him on this little show. So remember when Twitter first came out?
Yes.
Okay, so the celebrities like Kirstie Alley and Sinbad, they were talking to us peons, right?
Okay.
Because they were hungry, they wanted followers, so they would talk to nobodies. And I didn't do comedy back then, but if he said something, I would make a comment and he'd write back, ha ha, and so
Yeah.
I got to banter with him and Kirstie Alley before I did comedy. And I was feeling out whether or not I was good enough to banter with them, right? So about when the pandemic started, I wrote to Sinbad and I said, do you remember me on Twitter? Because my handle is clot info, because I do all this information about blood clots, because
Oh,
that's super important now.
that's interesting.
Thank you. I did a lot of research and I know a lot of crap. And so I said, do you remember me talking to you? And he goes, yes, I do. So I was like, wow, holy crap. So I said, I'm doing this thing where I'm interviewing all comics. He goes, let's do it. And I was like, oh, so I was so excited. I announced that he was coming, and then his schedule and my schedule, and we couldn't get it together. And finally, he said, I am not the one that schedules the stuff. It's not real effective. Talk to my assistant. And
Okay.
I thought he was shuffling me off to Buffalo, but he was actually giving me the keys to the kingdom. So I got a hold of her and I said, for 3 months I've been trying and it's not working. And what can you do to make this happen? Like as if it's ever going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Bam, she was making it happen. And that's how he got on my show. I started off asking for 15 minutes with him. And every time I went down, I'm Jewish and I was going, okay, 10 minutes, 5 minutes. I was doing the anti-Jew Jewing my time down. Finally, I said, I'll take 2 minutes. Could he please get on here and talk to the people?
Yeah.
Well, the agreement was 2 minutes. I was ecstatic. And he got on there and talked for 41.
Yeah. That was pretty cool. And I ran across it uh quite by quite by surprise. I think I was working on my fish tank, and I was working on my fish tank, and then my wife was across the room um watching TV, and then I looked over on Facebook, and I saw someone who looked like Sinbad. I'm like, that looks like Sinbad, and I picked my phone up and I literally looked across the room at my wife. I said, she's interviewing Sinbad.
It
Then
was
everything went
so
on.
good. Wasn't it a fun interview?
He's a great guy. He's a
Yes.
great guy.
Like everybody goes, oh, that's a great interview. He did a good job. That's a great interview. He was fantastic. And I'm like, what? What about me? Me. The ego is a funny thing, huh?
Oh, very, extremely.
No, I was a good interviewer. I made Sinbad look good.
Well, you know what? You are a good interviewer. I've that's like my weak point. Like, I've never really been like a good interviewer or like a good host. I always wanted to be though. Always
I,
wanted to be.
you're a good listener, so you got what it takes.
I love to listen. I love to like to my
Oh,
demise. Like, I'm the kind of person that, I end up like with new friends every time I leave home. Like, I'm in a supermarket and somebody wanted to talk to me, and then it's like 5 years later, and someone's like, "Oh, you know that guy?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, where you know him from?" "Oh, I met him on a plane." Like, I will talk and listen to anybody.
wow.
Oh yeah.
That's so cool. Before we go, can you talk to us about when you were first seen as funny, first time you made people laugh, first time on stage, your comedy career up to this point and after the pandemic? Can you fill people in on you?
Mm. Let me see. When was the first time I knew I was funny? You know what? I was always the kid in my neighborhood who had the jokes. Um, if if you were one of those people that always got bad haircuts, if your mom cut your hair, you could not hang out in any circle that I was in, because I was going to talk about it. And I was just always that guy. I always loved to do that. I always loved to joke, and I always loved to tell stories. And I didn't get into comedy until I was in my mid 20s.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't get into comedy until I was in my mid 20s. Um, I had done like the acting thing, some commercial work, and then I met some people who did comedy, and the light went off, and I was like, oh, that's something that I might want to try. Up to that point, I didn't have a relationship to comedy. Like, I watched the mainstream guys, whoever I got whoever I had on VHS. Like, I had Raw, and I had the Sinbad special, and I had Pryor, and I didn't go to comedy clubs or anything. And I decided to give it a try, and it was horrendous. It was horrible. It's the work. Like, my first time getting on stage, I lied. I lied to a club owner to get a spot. Um, I saw the ad. They said they were looking for new talent. Sent the email, and she called me back and got on the phone and talked. And she was like, "Oh, you've done comedy before?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've done a little bit of this over here with these people, and I did this." And she's like, "All right, cool. Uh, Come down 2 Saturdays from today. Your spot is at 8:10." It's all right. So I had 2 weeks to prepare. I had never written a joke. I had never written a set. I had 2 weeks to prepare. to go and do a 5 minute spot, 5 minute guest spot.
Uh-huh.
I went and bought an outfit. That was my preparation. I went, I bought an outfit, I got a haircut, got a haircut. And then like maybe I would say like the day of, I sat down and I wrote what I thought was a set, which ended up being like, I don't know, like a minute and a half of really bad comedy. And got down there. My brother came to see me. He was sitting in the front row. They announced me. I got up there. I got the microphone, and that silence was so loud. I had never, I had never felt like I was in a place more alien than the first time I got on stage. And I got up there and I kind of froze and I was looking around and I looked down and my brother's sitting in the front row and he looks at me and he goes, say something. So I do my first joke. Drop the punchline, crickets. So I gave him the punchline again because I thought maybe they didn't hear it. More crickets. It was horrible. And then I did my second bit and that didn't really go over too well. I got one laugh from the back of the room. And then I literally fought for my life for 3.5 minutes. 3.5 minutes on stage with no material and scared to death. I could have pooped my pants. It was horrible.
Wow.
And yeah, I just remember floundering up there and looking at waiting for the light to save me. Waiting for the light to save me. And then the host had some mercy on me. He ran up and saved me and got me off stage.
Wow.
But then when I got off stage, the next two comics just tore me to shreds. So I snuck out through the back. Yeah, that was my first experience on stage. And as horrifying as it was, I knew that I wanted to be back up there again.
Do you know how many people that have gone on stage and bombed the first time have never gone back?
Oh yeah, I can see why. It's a horrible bombing. Well, in especially in that way, it's horrible. I enjoy bombing a little bit now. I enjoy it now.
Yeah.
I feel like some pretty awesome stuff comes out of bombing.
Yep.
And I went on to do a whole lot of bombing. Went on to do a whole lot of bombing. And I started here. I started in New York City, so I just bombed all across the city for years. And I try to get as much stage time as I could. Like I was doing shows in basements, at barbecue places, and laundromats. I was it was a pretty awesome experience. I think that I really started to feel like a comic when I got to the point where audience would see you outside and say, "Oh, that's great." I remember when I started barking at Broadway Comedy Club. I was barking at Broadway Comedy Club for a while, and standing outside the showroom when the audience is coming out and having someone remember your bit. That
That just gave me chills.
yeah, like that. That's when I feel like that's how I feel like that's when I felt like I kind of like I was like I got something, and I just kept working on it and working on it and working on it, and then started, and then it became like a disease. Like I just couldn't stop, and I wanted more, and I wanted to, I was like, all right, well, you know what? It's cool. I've been bombing all over New York. Now I want to go and bomb other places. And I started going out and going on the road and traveling and just trying to do as much as possible. And it was like a drug
What's the your
for me.
favorite, like, what's the biggest thing you've been exposed to in your comedy?
The biggest thing I've been exposed to in my comedy, I would have to say, is that's a good question. I've been exposed to a lot of things. I don't know which one I can say is the biggest. Um, I definitely, I definitely built a better, and I don't know if it would have happened without comedy. I feel like I built a better relationship with myself.
Totally.
Just like I wouldn't have gotten to know myself as good as I do now if I didn't do comedy. And and you learn a lot. Like I got to see the country, and I got to learn a lot of things about culture and other people's cultures and
I
what's going
forgot to,
on.
we started off and I didn't properly introduce you as coming from New York, Brooklyn, New York, to 40 states of doing comedy in 40 of our 50 states. Holy
Yeah,
crap.
I mean, it's one of those things that and I've spoken to people before about it. Even when I was out there doing it, uh, I had buddies that would be like, "Oh my god, like how are you doing that?" And I'm like, "Well, I mean, you just do it. Like you just have to do it. You know, like I wasn't out there like playing arenas, but I might be at your local juice bar, like anywhere that there was a stage, I wanted to be there. So yeah, I started traveling and getting out there and meeting people, met some awesome people. Comedy was uh, a love outlet for me. I met a lot of awesome people, a lot of awesome people that I consider family. Still to this day, created some awesome, uh, I guess what some people would call art. And there's nothing that I ever enjoyed more than doing comedy.
How,
Nothing.
didn't you tell me that you produced a show at Broadway?
No, I used to produce a show at Eastville.
Eastville, that's what it was.
Eastville, yeah. I used to produce a show at Eastville a long time ago. Long time ago. I had a show called Monkey Pants at Eastville Comedy Club. Eastville is in Brooklyn now, but it used to be on the Lower East Side on East Fourth Street. And I had a show. It was every Wednesday night. And it ran for a couple of years. Uh, and I think around that time is when I met like a lot of like my like good like my comedy like brothers
Nice.
at Eastville. Yeah, that was when
Who
I
are
started. Hmm?
who are who are some people in comedy that you want to give a shout out to that have helped you along the way?
Hmm.
Is that something you want
I,
to do?
I think you know what I could say everyone. Like I couldn't even because I couldn't mention one without mentioning the other. And there's so many. There's so many like people. I've had so many people show me love and support um, out there, like from everywhere, everywhere. Um,
I had a
you know,
feeling that was going to be your answer.
yeah,
You
like
know,
there's just so many. I mean, all my good buddies out in Salt Lake City and in Utah and Pennsylvania and in LA, like I there's just and everybody's been a integral part. Everybody's been a part. From all the people from the people who let me crash on their couch for the weekend to the person that gave me a ride to the airport. You know, everybody. To the people who gave me a spot when I just popped up in their city and they didn't know who I was. Like that's, it's a family network.
Yeah, it
It's a
is.
family network, and it's and everybody's so valuable.
Has anybody given you advice that just totally opened doors for you when you took the advice?
Um, yeah, quite a few people gave me advice. Uh, too much, too many things to even narrow it down to which one was the best. I always had my ears open to advice. I think the best advice I ever got as a comedian was don't be afraid of the silence
Yeah.
and be honest. I got that one a lot. Be honest. Um,
I remember somebody telling me when I got done with, I thought I had a killer set, and a headliner told out of Philadelphia told me, "Have you ever thought about being authentic?" And I went home and I cried for a couple weeks. And then
yeah.
I looked up what it is to be authentic, and it totally changed all my comedy. It made a big difference to be
Oh,
authentic.
it's everything. It's everything. Because when you go up there, people want to know what your truth is. Like they want to know you. And I in the beginning, I remember when I first became funny, funny, uh, it was I was just writing jokes. I was just writing jokes. They could have been about anybody. And I remember one comic coming up to me one night. This is while I was still barking, and came up to me and said, "Hey, um, that was really good, but anybody could have told those jokes." And I felt so insulted because I was like, first of all, I wrote these jokes. And he was like, well, I mean, it tells me nothing about you. Like, what makes you you? What makes you you? And when I, and it took me a while, it didn't even like uh, ring to me at the time. But over time, I was like, okay, that's what that means.
Yeah.
And then that's when it really starts to become, that's when it starts to become juicy, is when it gets there, when you get to that place where, um, you're up there and you're preaching, you're taking them to church. And that was, yeah, authenticity. Authenticity will get you everywhere.
So you have a podcast.
Yeah.
You just started doing it not too long ago?
We just started recording it last week,
Mhm.
and I'm doing it with actually one of my best friends. His name is Brian Winston. He's awesome. Um, he's a coach, and it's basically about,
What kind of coach is he?
he coaches. He's like a business coach, life coach. He does a lot of different lots of different types of coaching. I hope that I'm saying that the right way.
So
But
what's the podcast about?
it's about self improvement and the quest for self improvement and high performance.
Wow.
So yeah, so basically about the principles and like the discussion. It's just discussions around how to achieve high performance, no matter what it is that you're doing, or how to build a better you, a more effective you. And
So what's the name of the podcast, Andre?
it's called Lemons.
And
And
where can people find the podcast?
they can find it on Anchor. We just started recording it, so they could probably start hearing it as soon as next week.
Okay. I'll
And
I'll I'll subscribe.
yeah, and yeah, it's exciting. It's nice. I like talking about things, especially things of that nature. Because I
Mhm.
think most of our conversations are about that.
Nice. Where do you want people to follow you on the internet?
They can find me on Instagram at Andre McSween. They can find me on Twitter at Drangerous, DRENGEROUS. On Facebook is Andre S. McSween. Is that all of them? Is that all? Yeah, that's all of them.
Got it.
Yep.
And are you giving out Cash App, Venmo, or PayPal?
No, no, I'm old school.
Where
You
would you
know,
like,
they-
if people want to donate to a worthy cause, what's a worthy cause you back?
a worthy cause I back. I would say donate to donate, and I mean this is one. This is just one that's close to me. I think they should go out and donate to um, any organization that is in connection with community relations and like making this situation outside better. Also, the National Kidney Foundation. Uh, that's something that rings very loud to me. I have a daughter with kidney disease, and
How's your daughter?
my daughter, she's 13. She'll be 14 this month.
What's her prognosis, Andre?
She has a condition that basically is hydronephrosis, and it translates to water on the kidney. So she has a blockage in her ureter, which is a tube that goes from the kidney to the bladder. And there's lots of kids out there. There's lots of people out there that need a kidney, or having kidney related health issues.
Is she waiting for a kidney donation?
Not presently, but right now she's in good health. Um, but yeah, definitely, donate to the National Kidney Foundation.
Perfect. Thank you so much for this lovely time. Call it an interview. I call it a lovely time.
Yeah, it was a very lovely time. It was good. It was fun. I still haven't found my cookie, but
Where's
still
your
fun.
wife? Do you really have a wife?
I do. Baby, baby. You probably won't come. Baby, ignoring me.
She listened to you?
She listens to me sometimes.
Thank you so much, Andre. I'm gonna head
Thank
on
you.
out.
Thank you. Love you.
Love you. Anytime you have anything you want to announce about your podcast, any shows, anything you're going to be on, come on back and do an announcement. You don't have to just let me share what you post. You can come back on and go live.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Hey, everybody, lemons with
Lemons,
Andre McSween and Brian Winston.
Brian Winston, and
Yep, on Anchor.
on Anchor.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you and goodbye. Bye, wife. What's your wife's first name?
Lasha.
Bye, Lasha, wherever you may be.
She's ignoring me. All right.
Bye.